Sometimes, I'm pretty straight up. A lot of times, Kirby, I will just say, hey, y'all hired us to be the expert.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star I'm super excited to dive in today. She's CEO and founder of multiple organizations, including Barlele, a brand strategy and content marketing, web design, development service, and the newer version of that is Creative Shizzle. Taylor Wilson, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, hey, Kirby, it's good to be here. Good to see you.
Absolutely. So, I want to start kind of at the top here. You are a marketer, a brand expert, and a certified business made simple coach. And we talked right before we started recording. I'm a big fan of Donald Miller. And so when I saw that, I'm like, okay, cool. I know that we're going to have a lot to talk about. Branding. So how can businesses and marketers ensure that a new brand resonates with the target audience?
Such a good question, and thank you for asking it, because a lot of times we get so off into our own ideas and we say, we're going to do this and it's going to be great, and we don't do the research first. We don't ask the market what they need. We just sometimes think of what we need. And so I think it's so important to do the research before you launch a new brand. And it doesn't have to be this big, long, extensive research project. I would say that depends on your goals and your existing brand. But try to do some market validation. Try to really understand, who am I trying to get in front of? Why am I trying to get in front of them? Why should it matter to them? Really, at the end of the day, it's about your audience and what value you're delivering to your audience. And so that value needs to very clearly and quickly come out in your brand. And so I think it's really about kind of digging in and trying to understand them first, and then connecting the dots between what your audience needs and what your brand can be for them.
It's kind of that core thing that Donald Miller's known for, right? Make them the hero of the story, not you, and make it for them, right?
Exactly. The customer is the hero. That's what we talk about in Story Brand and Business Made Simple. And it's really true. It's really what works, and it makes sense. It's practical, really.
So we mentioned rebranding, and we've both, you and I have been in business for a bit of time, and so how do I know? Because I've given thought to it, right? I've had a similar brand for many years. How do you know it's time for a rebrand?
I think that's another thing where you might get some feedback from the market. And feedback from the market could be as simple as, what are you hearing if you're going out and going to events and meeting people? What questions, or maybe sometimes I listen for signals of where there's a lack of clarity. I like to go out to conferences quite a bit. It's sort of how I network, how I meet people. It's a big part of how I've built my agency and team. And really just listening for signals. Does it seem like people don't understand what we do? Or, that's one way. If it seems like there's a disconnect, then I think it could be time to consider a rebrand. If your brand looks like clip art, it might be time to reconsider. And we've had those brands, right? I'm sure you have too. We just redid one for college that, you would think their brand would look a little more, but it was just kind of old school still. And so they came to us and said, we need to level up our game with our brand. So sometimes it's the market and people around you are giving you feedback where it seems like it's unclear. And sometimes it's really just it hasn't been a while, and it's dated, and times have changed.
Yeah. So I want to go off script really quick, Taylor, just because I'm curious if you run into this. Is we will get somebody and they'll say, "Hey, we need a rebrand, and we need it to be whatever," right? And then we do maybe a version or two, and then they're like, "No," and they push back, and they kind of want to go back to the clip art version of their logo. I don't know, A, if you've ever had that happen or if that's just us. Or
No.
B, how do you handle that? I'm just curious. This is just for me. I'm curious.
It's, I'm not going to say it's easy.
Yeah.
It
Right.
happens all the time. You
Okay.
know, it's definitely something that, to be honest, I still fall on my face sometimes with this, because every group that you're working with is a little bit different. There's always different personalities in the mix. You, as the brand leader, have to figure out how to manage those expectations and personalities, you know. So I will say it kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes, I mean, I'm pretty straight up. You know, a lot of times, Kirby, I will just say, hey, y'all hired us to be the expert. And we have done this for a lot of brands. Like, I really think this is a situation where y'all should listen to us. Sometimes I'll just say something like that flat out. But there's also reading the room. There are definitely, like, you don't always come out with that. I think it's so important to listen to the client too. There are decisions around brands and redos that clients make that I don't always agree with. But at the same time, it's a give and take, because at the end of the day, they need to feel comfortable with their brand. They're going to be the ones out there using it every day. And so if I'm pushing them in a direction that I think is great, but they don't think is great, then they're going to have this brand come out and they're never going to feel like it gels. And so sometimes it's literally like 9 or 10 rounds of revisions. You know, we don't always want it to go that way, but it sometimes does. And you work through it.
Totally. Totally. It makes me feel good that I'm just not the only one.
Not you.
Because again,
Not the only one at all.
and it does make sense that they would be comfortable with what they've been comfortable with too. So that, I think that's human nature to a degree. Okay. So I'm a big believer in kindness and leadership. And I've seen that you say that kindness can drive better business performance and revenue growth, which is exciting. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that I'm actually writing a book on this right now. I'm kind of working in final like edit mode with my publisher. And I
Nice.
think that kindness, as it gives you an edge, I think, in your leadership. And not, you know, to sound in like a, you know, kind of sleazy way, but I just think it works. I think so many leaders approach business from a revenue and metrics and numbers perspective first. I want to make this much money. We have to bring in this much money. This is what the board says we have to make. And I think when that's the number one focus, we miss the mark on a lot of other things. I have grown my agency from a team of one, me, to we've got about 20 people on our team now in just 3 years. And I never once, as reckless as this sounds, I never once set a revenue goal. But we keep growing and and we're also like happy at work. So life is nice, right? Because I don't hate my job. My team doesn't hate their job. We keep bringing in new clients. We keep being able to grow. I think we're growing in a healthy way. And I think we're doing that because I focus more on overall work life balance and happiness than I do just on sales numbers. And I think that that is actually fueling a few things. The brand is not just what the colors and fonts and words on a website say. The brand is also all about the customer experience. And I think customers get a good experience with us because my team shows up happy and they work hard, because I'm not making it all about numbers, because there's so much more to life than that. So that's sort of like the foundation of what I mean when I talk about happiness and kindness in the workplace actually brings better results and honestly more revenue. I think at the end of the day, that's more sustainable.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I can't wait to hear about the book once you get there.
Yeah, it's been a process to work.
I bet. I bet. All right, final question for you. You teach folks to minimize to maximize. That just caught my eye. I thought that was interesting. So can you talk about that and explain how businesses can apply this principle to their own business?
Yeah, absolutely. Minimize to maximize is all about minimizing the clutter so that you can maximize and find joy in the things you actually want to work on that you should be working on. I think about this as your lane of genius. What is your lane of genius? And Kirby, you've probably got a lane where you're just like in that flow state. It's where you love being, it's what you love doing. How do we minimize like all the BS so we can maximize where you live and how much you live in that lane of genius? And I've got like 3 Ds. Do it, drop it, delegate it. So there's generally 3 buckets. Do it, that's all the stuff. That's my lane of genius. I, Taylor, should keep doing that. Either because I'm the best person to do it or because I love doing it and I just get a lot of oxygen and energy from it. Delegate, that's like, what can I hand off to someone else, or what's just something where technology can automate it? Like, let me kind of get that off of my plate. It still needs to get done, but it's something I can delegate either to another human on my team or technology. And then there's the drop it list. That's the stuff where you're just like, why am I doing this? Why am I saying yes to this?
Yeah.
Why did I sign up for that? Why do I have this relationship in my life or my business? It can be many things. So honestly, like, I like to tell people, just make a list. What's in the do it bucket? What's in the delegate bucket? And what's in the drop it bucket? And that's sort of like the basic pathway to minimize to maximize.
Yeah, I love that. It's easier said than done for me, I think. The drop it. There's a great rule I heard from Derek Sivers years ago where he said that if the answer is not hell yes, it's no. Right? Because the more successful you get, the more people want you to be a part of their team. And you get invited to more stuff, and it's just harder and harder to say, because we want to be nice and whatever. But and his whole thing is, otherwise, if you don't, you get a calendar full of shit you don't actually care that much about.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, it's just natural. I actually was not using Calendly for a while because it was starting to get to where I was like having all these meetings all day long. And I was like, how did he even get booked? Who is this person I'm talking to? I don't even know. And I was like, I have no time to do my job. And so, I've fixed the tech to work better for me with that.
Yes.
For a while, I was like, I cannot have my calendar be a free-for-all public-facing thing because, like, that's what starts to happen. So that's just one really simple example of how you can say, nope, not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. Well, Taylor, this is awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation. Where can folks find out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, I am big on LinkedIn, so go find me on LinkedIn, Taylor Shanklin Wilson on LinkedIn, and then go check us out at creativeshizzle.com. And then I'm on Instagram. I do more of my life kind of, joy coaching stuff on Instagram at Go with Taylor.
Taylor, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was fun. We will have to do it again sometime, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kirby. Good to see you.
All right. Yeah, good to see you too. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Marketing Joy.